Debt paid, Erica. All right. All right, so what we've got for you this morning is something called an Ignite Plenary. What that means is I've got 11 people who will speak for 5 minutes each. Some of them went all purist on me and actually have set auto advance on their slides, and so that should be amusing because the slide will advance whether they are advancing in their talk or not. I'm not going to go down the long list of people here. I wanted to let you know that I've invited a distinguished and erudite group of people. Unfortunately, I've got these 11. Sorry. I go for the easy jokes, don't I? But I'm going to ask the speakers to introduce themselves, basically 1, 2, 3, name, title, affiliation, and then launch into it. We've got a timer, which you're not going to see because then you'll all be watching the timer for them. And without further ado, let's have our first speaker. I'll let you start it. You can tell me. How do I start?
All right, my name is Tom Boone. I'm a reference librarian at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles. Since I'm from Hollywood, I'm obligated to talk about the entertainment industry. So we're going to talk about Redbox and what we can learn from Redbox. Redbox is the kiosks that you see outside of grocery stores, 7-Elevens, drugstores, where you rent videos directly from a vending machine rather than going into an actual store. And these have become very popular in the last few years. Redbox is actually owned by Coinstar, who for years have been putting those machines in grocery stores that give you cash for your spare change. So they built this whole business around these vending machines in places that require no human interaction except for you going up to the machine and using it. Blockbuster is the direct competitor of Redbox, and Blockbuster, with their old school store model, is suffering as a result, and they're not really happy with what Redbox has done to their business. Blockbuster, of course, actually put the old school video stores out of business themselves. So this is sort of the cycle going on where Blockbuster knocks out one person and then someone else comes along and is threatening Blockbuster themselves. So now Blockbuster stores are closing. So Blockbuster wants to find a way to stop Redbox. Blockbuster is in very tight with the movie industry because in addition to renting videos, they also sell DVDs, which the studios like. Studios don't like Redbox either because in their mind they want you to buy DVDs. They don't want you to rent DVDs. And so they are looking for ways to stop Redbox. One of the ways that they have decided, or that several of the studios have decided to put a stop to Redbox, is to actually create a 28-day window where when a video comes out, Redbox is forbidden from renting that title. Redbox tried suing, but it was like bringing a knife to a gunfight. The lawsuits got thrown out. They ended up having to make agreements with those studios, which means that people can't rent videos for those first 28 days. But people don't want to buy videos. They want to rent videos. And as a result, those 28-day windows haven't mattered at all. And every Tuesday when I stop off at 7-Eleven on the way home from work, there's a line of people, at least 6 people deep, for those Redbox machines, despite the fact that a lot of the movies there are 28 days old, because people want to rent them. Oddly, some of the studios have realized this, and Paramount just announced that they are no longer putting that 28-day window because their studies show that rentals have absolutely no effect whatsoever on DVD sales. So what does this mean for us as law school IT professionals, librarians? Well, a lot of us think our job is to say no to a lot of things that students and faculty want to use and things that students and faculty already like. Got news for you. The laptop has been around since 1975. It's not a new technology. And I think the students know that. And so why are you telling people they can't bring a laptop into a class? Preaching to the choir, I know. Google is something that students have been using for years. If it gave shitty results, they wouldn't use it. But librarians are telling students not to use Google. and students know that Google is good for something. It's our job not to trash the technology, but to tell them what they can use in addition to what they already know. When we tell them that something they already use and like is worthless, all we're doing is standing in the way and becoming one giant roadblock. And when we become that roadblock, we're not signaling to them that we know better than they do. We're signaling to them that we're idiots. Because they know that Google is good for something. We know Google is good for something. Now, this isn't just about trying to create this sort of techno-lust where we force technological tools on people. This is about giving people what works best for them. And so it goes both ways. If you have a patron or a faculty member or a student who prefers to get something in the old print format, don't bitch about it. Give it to them in the print format. Because if it's there, it works, and it's what they like, why not give that to them? I mean, we've got to be open to all of these things, or else we just get tagged as being irrelevant, and next time they need help, they'll go somewhere else. They won't come and talk to us. And what happens then is that by the time we come around and start actually acknowledging that something works, it'll be too late, and we'll just be Blockbuster copying off of somebody else's model, and nobody will care. Thank you.
All right, Jonathan Ezor. You want to advance? All right.
Good morning. I'm Jonathan Ezor, Director of Legal Affairs. I'm Director of Legal Affairs. A long time ago. Director of the Institute for Business Law and Technology at Touro Law Center and a professor there. And this morning, I'm going to be telling you about law students tweeting badly. I think some of you will laugh, but there's also a bit of a lesson. Reminder, hashtag for the conference is CALIcon10. Some really interesting tweeting going on, worth following. Okay, I have a running Twitter search in TweetDeck. Law student or law school? Pretty simple. Self-identifying by those phrases. What's going to come up? Well, over the last year that I've been collecting these, and I don't think any of these people as a Touro student, please, I've come up with things that you will not believe, maybe you will, that law students will tweet. So we're going to go through them in the next 4 minutes and 33 seconds. We have 3 themes here. We'll start with the most important one. Sex. I'm going to let some of these speak for themselves. I hope you can all read them. Okay? This is someone entering law school. This is someone who would rather leave. Okay, fine. You know, that sort of a venting thing. Maybe you've seen all sorts of things like this. This is someone who really wants to show what she's got to her fellow students, her faculty member. Many of these tweets make me wonder, hope, that there is anonymous grading in some of these schools. This one, I don't even know what to do with this one. And hopefully this person is not a night student. You know, we have cross-registration in our school. We have a night program, and you've got to wonder if Isabel here decides to take a late class, the hijinks that may ensue. All right. That was the sex part. Let's talk about drugs. And no, we're not doing rock and roll, I promise. We did that yesterday, right? The Florida Bar has already announced that it will be looking at candidates' social media presences if they've expressed that they've had some substance abuse problems, for example, to see if they're shown in recent Facebook pictures, drinking and the like. Well, we have a group here of law students who aren't all that discreet. Okay, this is not Facebook. I don't have to be friends with these people. This is a public Twitter search. Totally skipping torts, getting drunk with Bowen all evening. Law school, your days are numbered. Natalie, your grade point average is numbered and it's going down. Here's one. Imagine you're hired as a litigator. Another challenging person. Admissions office must have fun reading this one, right? Okay, we have a twofer from Ms. Ashley Clark. First, she's telling us that she can't do law school work without drinking. Twitter is my own personal AA, don't judge. Within a day, just out of complete curiosity, how do I get a Colombian connection? All right, sex, drugs. These I titled career suicide for various reasons. Any legal writing people here? Any Westlaw or Lexis reps in the room? You have to read this one out loud almost. And open letter to legal writing, Westlaw, and LexisNexis. I hate you all, period. You life-ruining elements of law school. Love, Brittany. Clearly, she's not listening to legal writing or any of the other. Excuse me, Brittany. I hope you guys, if you know these people, please tell them. This one's fun, right? She wants to become an Uncle Luke dancer, whatever that is. She can totally bust the crybaby. This is way too much sharing. That should be that person's next door seatmate. All right, a few of just really indiscreet. Here's someone who better not be interviewing for a public interest job. And here's someone who had better not be interviewing with a managing partner who happens to be an immigrant. It's funny, but this was an honestly expressed. And here's someone who is going to have a fun time with the ethics committee. All right? After 3 months of law school, representing a friend in a criminal trial. Pro bono credit? No. My 13-second message, please remind colleagues as well as students, a little discretion goes a long way when you're online and in public. Thank you very much.
All right, next up, John Joergensen. F5. You want to promote or?
Just press the space bar.
I think so. Okay.
Thanks. Hi, my name is John Joergensen. I am a reference librarian right here at Rutgers Camden School of Law. What I want to talk about today, in 4 minutes and 52 seconds now, is rebooting library reference. I talked to John about this, and he said throwing some hand grenades would be a good idea, so here we go. What I'm talking about today is not particularly new. It's come up in this conference before, and in fact a plenary a few years ago. And it's something that people around this country are doing things about right now, but it needs to be talked about a lot more, and a lot more explicitly than it is. Let me start out giving a little bit of background information, at least my perspective on the problem. Starting out with Thomas Mann and his Guide to Library Research Methods, a wonderful, groundbreaking book written in 1984. Of course, it was not this guy. It was this Thomas Mann, an American librarian, writing in the 1980s. In that book, he took a principle originally brought out by a man named Zipf, I believe, in 1948, a sociologist talking about the principle of least effort. Thomas Mann applied it to library reference service, and he had two corollaries to the principle of least effort, which affect our lives as librarians and as legal educators generally quite a lot. The first, researchers will stick with a familiar resource long after it is no longer useful. Think about it, you know it's true in your own life. It's true in everybody's life. The best example I can think of really quickly is just the really hard preference people have between Lexis and Westlaw. If you think about it, and you think of two more isomorphic systems, same coverage, same Boolean operators with tiny little differences, but you get extreme brand loyalty. Why do you have that extreme brand loyalty? Because there is a very basic hesitancy of normal human beings to do anything unfamiliar when there's any risk at all. Second corollary research, and this is, come out with studies of Google all the time now, but we knew it long before Google. In print, the same thing happens. People satisfy themselves with the first 3 or 4 relevant items they get, no matter whether they're the best or not. These are the things that information literacy directly tries to overcome. This is the purpose of teaching research. You do nothing else. You address these 2 issues. So, we come to today with the Google and the Westlaw Lexis effect. 20 years ago, before we had Google and Lexis and Westlaw as serious things, what did we have? We had books. People had to come into the library. They had to pass that reference desk, and as a result, the reference desk looks a lot more like this. Today, we have people just relying on Google, on Westlaw. They're listening to the marketing because why not? Google is good. Westlaw and Lexis are good. The reference desk looks much more like this today. This is a bad thing because we have a great deal to offer people and we have a great deal of necessary skills to offer people. But they're not going to come to us if they think they're getting something good enough. And the question that I have for everybody, and again, this has been asked here before, is how long will they be paying us for sitting at an empty desk? Usefulness is worth nothing if no one uses you. And being even ubiquitously, is that a word? Available is useless if no one thinks they need you. And they think they're getting everything they need from Google and Lexis and Westlaw. And yes, I do mean Web 2.0 is part of this equation. We're putting ourselves out there in all kinds of ways, but we're not being used. So, it's time to reboot. We do have much that students need, and we need to do it. And it's important to our students and our institutions. And our institutions need to take this as serious as we do. How do we do it? We need to get to where the students are. We need to go to them and not wait for them to come to us because they don't have enough reasons on their own to think they need to do that. We need to be where the students are in the classroom. There are university and law schools out there now that have great one-credit classes, all kinds of advanced legal research. They're getting great results out of that. Everybody needs to do it, despite whatever limitations there may be.
All right, Sarah Glassmeyer. So do you want to advance? I'll start.
Hi, my name is Sarah Glassmeyer, and I am a librarian. Don't let the bun and the glasses and the sensible shoes, which I just kicked off, fool you, but I am not that kind of librarian. Most librarians aren't that kind of librarian. That librarian isn't that kind of librarian. Deep in the heart of most librarians lies a wild-eyed revolutionary. And I thought here, in the founding of one of the birthplaces of the American Revolution, I'd tell you about a revolution that's happening in libraries right now. It's the scholarly communication revolution. And actually, just like the American Revolution wasn't just here in Philadelphia, or in Virginia, or in Boston, there are several areas where this revolution has been starting. In the faculty, the libraries, and the IT professional communities. And just like the American colonies were able to put aside their differences and work together for the common good, I hope that these various factions can start to work together in this cause of the scholarly communication revolution. And just so there's no doubt about who the British Empire is in this extended metaphor, I mean information vendors. Now, contrary to popular belief, I do not hate information vendors. I'm just saying that, like in revolutionary times, they've gotten a little heavy-handed. And we've outgrown their need for the protection a little bit. And more to the point, they're draining our coffers and taxing us to death. So one might say that these are the times that try librarians' souls. Even prior to recent economic troubles, libraries have been dealing with shrinking budgets and rising subscription costs. And we've been making do by limiting services or cutting our collections, that sort of thing. But finally, we've been pushed too far. In the past 2 weeks, libraries have finally had their Battle of Lexington and Concord. Or it might have been the Boston Tea Party. I wasn't a history major. I'm not too sure about these things. I don't want to stretch the metaphor too far. But anyway, here's what's happening in the University of California. Nature Publishing Group, publishers of Nature amongst other many fine scholarly publications, raised the site license for the University of California by 400%. And this amounts to a little over $1 million a year. Now mind you, this is at a time when the UC system is having to lay off and furlough faculty and staff members to meet the budget crisis that's currently going on in California. So like I said, this has been happening for years, and libraries have been making do. But not this time. Libraries said no. And not only, and Nature Publishing pushed back, and they kind of insinuated that UC had a bit of a sweetheart deal, but that didn't faze the librarians. They said then, hell no. And not only did they say hell no, but they reached out to the UC faculty while doing so. And this is where it gets really, really good. And I'm talking sit in your office, eat popcorn as you watch press releases and blog posts fly by good. Because when I say that they reached out to the faculty, they just didn't send out the usual apologetic, oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut this journal, or cut back library hours and limit these services. Oh no. Using Nature Publishing's own data and information, they pointed out to the faculty that their scholarly output, the material that makes up the bulk of the content of these journals, amounts to about $19 million a year in revenue for Nature Publishing. And that's just UC faculty. And not only that, but the faculty provide hundreds of hours of free labor by acting as editors, peer reviewers, and advisory board members. So faculty, and by extension the university, have been giving Nature Publishing all this millions of dollars of product and effort, which Nature then sells back to the university. As one librarian recently pointed out, this isn't much different than the movie Fight Club, where the protagonists made soap from liposuction fat, which they then sold to the rich women that had the lipo in the first place. After pointing these facts out to the teaching faculty, the library suggested that they boycott Nature Publishing in all ways. So here's my challenge to the teaching faculty in the room. If you haven't already, join this revolution. Stop relying upon commercial vendors and disseminate your work. Put your scholarship in open repositories. Only submit to OA journals. Encourage your institution's publications to become open and Durham statement compliant. Quit all your editor and advisory board gigs and hassle your colleagues to do the same. Write a casebook for CALI instead of a large publisher, or at least only assign OA casebooks and articles to your students. Perhaps at some point we will find similar open publishers for treatises and practice materials. And I know about the promotion and tenure hustle and that you need real publications, quote unquote, for your CV. So you're also going to have to start encouraging your colleagues to accept these alternative publication streams. This is not going to be easy, but it must be done. Because I'm telling y'all, if we have to do this all on our own, the libraries, we're going to fail. And if libraries have to keep, if our collections become decimated, as will our ability to provide anything but the basic of services. As a result, your ability to do research will suffer, and your students will turn in even worse research papers than they are now. But if we stand together, and the free law people are able to provide accurate and authentic primary law, and the law schools are able to provide stable sources of journals and maybe some other secondary materials, and IT professionals build and support the systems that do this, this will give us some leverage when we negotiate with the vendors, and open our budgets to purchase lots of other things, and allow us to concentrate our time and effort towards user education and services. So again, my name is Sarah Glassmeyer, and I am a librarian, and this is what librarians look like. And if you have any other questions or would like to discuss the revolution further, here's my contact information.
Very good, thank you. Next, Steve Burnett. It's on a timer, right? So, F5. I don't know. Oh, okay. I'll start.
All right. Morning, I'm Steve Burnett. I'm the Vice President of Auxiliary Businesses, which is a mouthful in itself. Concord Law School, Kaplan Legal Education. For those of you, I need to set the stage a little bit. You might want to turn that on because I'll talk for an hour and a half or so. For those of you who don't know, Concord Law School is a fully online law school, now in its 12th year, which is pretty darn amazing in itself. We have over 1,000 graduates. And what I'm going to talk about today, I'm not using the one? Okay. Thought I was using the one. What I'm going to talk about today is an ebook project that we started about 3 years ago at Concord, and it's morphed in a lot of different ways, so I'd say that the ebook project in itself is rebooted. We started out with this, with the notion that we wanted to provide all of our students who are in all 50 states and 12 countries with a reading device, whichever reading device, fully loaded with all of their first-year casebooks, because our curriculum is a prescribed curriculum. We don't have a faculty member using one book and another faculty member using another book. All of the books are the same books. So we thought that was a pretty slick way to go for an online law school, instead of them all having to buy hard copy casebooks, horn books, that we would provide them preloaded into a reading device. We started out working with a company called First Paper, which was owned by Hearst, and quickly realized that those guys were only interested in saving Oprah's magazine from its demise in the print form. You know, they really cared very little about education and the education market. So then we started talking to a company called Plastic Logic, another reading device manufacturer. I always thought Plastic Logic was you didn't overspend your ability to pay your credit card bills, but Plastic Logic is another e-reading device. And we found out quickly there are about 14 e-reading devices, and so we decided that we didn't want to be in the e-reading device business, that we would rather work with a publisher and go that route. So what we did is we started to work with West Publishing Company. And West, early on, was a partner with us in loading. They were going to load their electronic books into the e-reading device. And then we realized quickly that our partner, First Paper, was just really dragging along on this. So what we've done instead of that is to load electronic books. 90% of our first-year books are West books and foundation books into our learning management system. It's now, as I said in this slide, is fully integrated into the learning management system. And I believe we are the first school to have students have complete access into Law Student Exchange, or that's what they should call it, Law School Exchange. So the books are being served through Law School Exchange. They all are linked into the reading assignments in our LMS. This is what our LMS looks like if you're a student coming into Concord. You go into the LMS, you sign in, you get your classes. This is a reading assignment. The reading assignment takes you to a Calamari and Carrillo book. So you click on the icon, it takes you. Yeah, there's the icon right there. Click the launch here. Click on that icon, it takes you to Calamari and Carrillo. Kind of a nice picture of Calamari and Carrillo. And then when you open that up, it gives you the West e-reader, which are all of the underlining, highlighting, moving, reorganizing, putting it into your own stuff, kinds of things. So it's a really nice integrated way to do this. And then the next stage of this, we just started this in June. We have 4 starts a year, unlike most law schools. We started odd times for whatever reason. So our students are now just starting to use this. Once they get their Westlaw password, they have access to this. We have just one point of entry in that. Once you've entered your Westlaw password, you're into this book. You have access to it for the full year, basically. And then there are also Keith Seip, if any of you know Keith, I'm sorry he's not here today. He's with Carolina Academic Press. Has his books in Law School Exchange. And so we have Bridging the Gap as a Carolina Academic Press book in the same system. So that's where we are. The next stage of this is to then allow students to sideload these ebooks into their own reading devices. So they can choose what device they want, and West is working on that to make the reader available on as many devices as possible. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but we think it will happen pretty shortly. And then finally, this is a picture of a train. No, I have more to say about that. This represents a lot of different things to me. And the first thing it represents is original light rail. This is a train going down 5th Street in Lafayette, Indiana, which happens to be my hometown. And I thought, we can't do things like that anymore. People would go nuts if there was a train running down the middle of town. And I said, no, it's a light rail. But I think what it really represents is the freight train about to hit the side of law schools in terms of the cost of education and what we're going to do about it. Thank you.
All right, Patrick Wise.
You want to start the time? Hi, I'm Patrick Wiseman, Professor of Law at Georgia State University College of Law, and I was going to tell you all about how I came to get rid of my constitutional casebook. I was going to tell you about this, the the casebook that killed the casebook, where I've blotted out the names of the authors to protect the not so innocent. This casebook recently arrived in my office. The third edition in 6 years of this casebook. The edition 3 back was one that I was using where I couldn't tell the difference between ellipsis or evisceration. There's an example of you see the has been passed, the Congressional Authority to Protect Interstate Commerce. I found myself apologizing for this casebook in Con Law 1 and Con Law 2 as I was using it, and this was one of the reasons. This is what's ellipsed. You see the 2 yellow arrows represent what's been cut without any sort of indication of pages having been removed from the text. That, of course, wasn't the only reason that I wanted to get rid of the casebook. The other reason was, as I say, they came out with the 3rd edition in the last 6 years. It costs $150 each time. The remarket value gets lost every time that they come out with a new edition, so students can't sell it. And I realize that that's the economics of the casebook market, but I think it's exploitative and we need to get rid of it. I also was motivated by the fact that I just have, these are notes from an earlier offering of the course where I just felt I was overwhelmed with paper and I just wanted to go paperless. So a couple of things. I was inspired to boot the casebook not just by the casebook, but by the fact that publicresource.org came out with a repository of US Supreme Court cases, which is all we use in constitutional law, from volume 1 up through about 2005, and the Legal Information Institute can fill in everything up till now, and the CALI Legal Education Commons. All of these things came together to motivate me to move the course online and get rid of the casebook. So this is the course as it's being offered this summer. The course page. There's the syllabus in progress. Here's a class page linked from the syllabus where you'll see down towards the bottom. You'll see there's a link to a podcast because I record all of my classes and my students can download the podcast later. And you also see the link to the whiteboard, which is created by the smartboard that I then save to a PDF file, which the students after the fact can then download from the class syllabus. Here's a class page that illustrates, that just has my notes on it. I was going to tell you about all this, but I'm not really going to tell you about all this. Here's the class page, the editing a class page, where at the top there are notes, questions, and links that the students see on each page for the class in the syllabus, and then assigned cases, some post-class notes which they will see only after class, so there aren't any here, and then my teaching notes down at the bottom, which when the page is password protected only I get to see. So I've gone completely paperless. On each class page, the cases that they need to read are linked, and I'll tell you a little bit about this. Is what the edited cases look like. This is having got the publicresource.org stuff. This is what I was able to do, and there are now, in each case has at the top of the case icons to expand the ellipses and footnotes all the way through, and the paragraphs are numbered, which was something that publicresource.org did, which was extremely useful because in class I can refer to the paragraph numbers when I'm talking about a case, and you can expand the ellipsis by clicking on an icon, individual ellipses, and this is what it looks like with an ellipsis expanded. You see the slightly lighter text where the ellipsis has been expanded. The cases are there are links within the cases to which students can go. This is what a class page, when it's open, I have it open in tabs. You probably can't see up there, but up at the top there's the current assignment, then the cases opened, and I take that in on my EPC, which you see on the left there, my netbook. So that's my teaching machine. All of my material is in there. I have no paper anymore. In the middle you see the smartboard. As in the background you see students coming into class. On the right you might see the MP3 recorder that I use. The repository of edited cases is in the CALI Legal Commons, and there it is. I was going to talk about all that, but then I thought that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And maybe as we change the mode of delivery, we're not really changing the way we teach. And so I thought, well, I was going to talk about Twitter and LinkedIn and all that. But instead I thought I'd say a little bit about Google Wave. This is Google Wave open in Google Chrome, and it has lots of opportunities for collaboration, discussion, brainstorming, etc., etc. So go play with it at wave.google.com. It's now open to everybody. That's it.
Man, when I said 5 minutes, I didn't think you would take me seriously, folks. Susanna Leers.
Hello, my name is Susanna Leers, and I'm the Electronic Services Librarian at the University of Pittsburgh Law School. And I'm delighted to have this opportunity where two of my character flaws, which are ADD and I talk too fast, are actually advantageous. Okay, my talk is titled Dr. Specious, more about that later, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Google and eBay. First, I want to thank Professor Rasmussen, who I had in library school, who made me read this book, The Design of Everyday Things, because it has made me really look at things as things like our databases and search engines, and think about the people behind them. Or PowerPoint. Think about how crazy the people are who invented PowerPoint and put all those crazy things where they swirl and jump and everything. All right. So what I do is I teach students a lot about using these databases, and they're very elaborate, and they have to construct these boring, these elaborate searches, and they don't really like doing it. So what they like to use is this, which is magic. I mean, we have to admit it. It's beautiful. And you can do a lot of the same things in this little beautiful screen that you can do on those fancy elaborate Lexis and Westlaw screens. eBay, the same kind of thing. Look at that. That's it. I'm Smiles52. Advanced eBay, you know, they both give us advanced options, and they're easy. They're really easy to use. They're easy to figure out, and frankly, I admit I buy pretty much everything I own on eBay these days. Google, Advanced Google is the same. You can the only thing that you're limited by is this 100 results. They won't let you show more than 100 results, but beyond that, you can construct pretty advanced searches on Google. So I teach my students, look, you can be really good with Google, and for example, you can construct a search even in the simple search box like copyright, fair use, site.edu, or site.gov, and you're going to teach them about Boolean logic and limiting your results. If you just do copyright fair use, you get 74 million results. And if you do the Boolean searching, you only get 539,000 results. So that's a good result. I teach them about directories in eBay because eBay has fabulous directories, and I teach them about cost. Because just imagine if you, if Lexis charges you for doing the search all categories, and they charge you less for doing the little categories, that's what you need to think about. Search on the little categories. So this is, a lot of people don't even look at the eBay directory. I like to show my students, especially down at the bottom there, you'll see the everything else category in eBay. Yeah. And I tell them, have you ever looked at adult eBay? Did you know there's an adult eBay? See? Did you know that? Not only that, but there's funeral and cemetery eBay, genealogy, personal security, religious products and supplies, and weird stuff. So all you have to do to use adult eBay is go to this screen and, you know, admit that you're over 18 or say that you're over 18. And, well, I'm not going to show you the, but believe me, you can find some interesting things on this website. Here's the weird stuff category, and the subcategories in weird stuff, which they show you on the side there, are slightly unusual, really weird, and totally bizarre. And some of the adult eBay stuff somehow manages to make its way into I think that black with blue trim suede flogger whip is probably from the adult eBay site. And here's the other category. This is all kinds of weird stuff. Jesus stickers and ways to unlock various things, and Gothic stainless steel lock male chastity restraint. Who knows what that could possibly be? Another great thing about eBay is that you can shop all over the world from one little website. So, international eBay. And if you combine eBay, international eBay, with the Google Chrome browser, which automatically will now translate any language into English for you, it's like you can get anything anywhere. It's fabulous. So here's the Netherlands eBay right here. So I don't know if anybody speaks Dutch. I do not. But so this is the, I'll go back a second, the pretty gestoord category, which I found out is basically everything else in Dutch. And this is what you get on the, in Netherlands, the pretty gestoord category. And I still can't understand it because it's in Dutch, but I can kind of tell that it's a little bit of the adult stuff too, with that finger sticking up and the... And, but then Google Chrome will automatically translate it into English for you. And the reason why I said that it was Dr. Specious at the beginning is because I translated my own name, which is German, into English, and it means specious. And I also wanted to remind you that some students are not necessarily computer literate or don't love using computers. This is a blog post by my son who says, I sit down in front of my laptop and suddenly I have a headache, I can't focus, and it's 6 hours later than when I started. So remember that when you're teaching your students. And that's it. Thank you.
Ginsberg.
I stand behind that and never see me. These are the mics.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me all the way back there? Good enough.
Go.
Hi, my name is Debbie Ginsberg. I'm the Educational Technology Librarian at Chicago Kent, and I'm interested in things in the future. So I've been studying what future law students are going to be like by conducting a personal study in my own house. And I'm going to do it with these two children who live in my house because I'm convinced that at least one of them is going to be a law student in the future. And the reason why is law student is in them genetically. They're going to genetically be lawyers. This is part of my family tree, and all of the red people are lawyers. There is something in us that produces lawyers. We're going to start a foundation, but until then, one of them is going to be a law student. So I've been watching how they use technology, and I find that they have 5 expectations about what they think technology does. They use all kinds of technology. So here are their 5 expectations. First, they think technology is ubiquitous. This is the list of various technologies that are just in my own house. Okay, I don't know where all of them are, not all of them are, but my children know that they can go to any room in our house and find some kind of computing technology. They think it's intuitive. They can pick up an iPhone and use it. My 4-year-old is teaching my husband how to use an iPhone. It's just that easy. That's what he expects to happen. So number 1. Number 2. It's 3. Tactile. He can pick up the giant iPhone and do amaze with it by tilting his hands. He doesn't think you need a keyboard or a mouse. You just pick it up and it works. That's what he expects. 4. He thinks technology teaches you. That's what they expect. This is one of my iPhone programs that he has on his own iPhone that's teaching him how to write. And he can write things like his name and random other things and fish. So that's the 4th thing. And my children think that you use technology to communicate. My 1-year-old daughter picks up the iPhone and says, "Hi!" Very cute. She picks up remotes and socks and does the same thing, but she thinks technology is used to connect people with other people. So they have these 5 expectations. What does this mean when they get to law school? They already have these expectations. They're going to transform over the next 15 or 20 years, and there are certain things that we're going to have to think about. And it's not going to be just for these nice, fresh-faced law students and what their expectations are going to be, because they're going to grow up even further, or people very much like them, and they're going to graduate, and then they're going to come work for us in the law school. And they're going to be faculty and staff, or maybe a little time machine to go back in time and find the law school, but they are going to have these same expectations. So it's not just new from the student side, but what we do as faculty, IT staff, and librarians are going to be informed by these 5 expectations. So
What does it mean? One, they're going to expect technology to be everywhere, not just in the front of the room, but in the back, not just at whatever service points we have for IT and for the library, but throughout the building. It's going to be everywhere. They want it to be easy to use. The Trio is easy to use until the iPhone came along. The iPhone is going to get this for an easier product. They're always going to look for what works for them and what they understand right now. So it's not the easiest, it's gone. They are not going to think that technology is going to be limited. It's definitely not going to be limited by the keyboard. If they need a keyboard, they'll just project it on their hands. They can do that now. They're not going to want a mouse. They want technology to be instantly accessible. They are going to think that technology is a vital educational tool. They've used it since they were children. They've used it in grade school, high school, college. They don't expect it to stop at the law school doors. Especially in 15 or 20 years, it's going to be a complete part of their education. It's something that just doesn't end in grad school. And finally, they expect technology to keep us all connected. Not just with their law school communities, not just with the legal communities, but with their local communities and the world at large. They're going to expect instant access to everything and everyone. So, we need to be ready, not just for these nice high school grads and their orange balloons who are coming to us in 5 years. We already have very specific expectations of technology and how it's going to work, and we're going to bring that to the law school very soon. But we have to be ready for these two children. When they come in 15 or 20 years and they think technology is ubiquitous, they think that it is intuitive, tactile, communicative, and is used for teaching, their expectations are going to be what we need to meet. So the question is, are we ready? And as long as we make their expectations of technology our expectations, then yes, we will be ready to serve the law students, not just 5 years from now, not just 20 years from now, but as far in the future as we need to. Thank you.
Ryan Donnelly. Thanks, John. Okay, so it's a little difficult to put a lot of nuance into 5 minutes, so I've kept my metaphor, I think, pretty direct and straightforward here. The metaphor is the iceberg, right? That I think it's a useful way of looking at the problem that I see, the challenge that we're confronting. But before I do that, I didn't really want to engage in any predictions or try to come up with any sort of timeline, right? The evolution is going to take place, I'm sure. I don't know exactly when. One of the predictions that we had here in 1996 by Bernard Hibbets was that the end of the law review 4 years ago. So I don't think that we can actually put a time on a particular thing. Now, to be fair, there are plenty of movements now, the SSRN and the other movements for the commons and law reviews. It certainly happened. Here's one. Here's a prediction. The end of lawyers. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, I think Richard Susskind has got a lot of good points to make, but I'm certainly not going to predict that. It does give me an opportunity to think about the Shakespeare quote from Henry VI, Part 2, by Dick the Butcher. You may have heard this one. The first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. So, it wasn't the Earl of Kent, but what the heck. So, the end of the case method. I'm not going to predict that, right? Although, I mean, apparently, this is happening, right? The case method will, at some point, probably be transformed into something else. But it's useful, right? It's useful, I think, primarily because it gives students, an exemplary case, right? If we think of Penoil versus Neff, or we think of Paul's graph, these cases have been around for a long time, and they're extremely useful, right? They are models. They can be, presented as a particular point of law, a particular principle, right? But the appellate decision is just the tip of the iceberg, right? That's the way I see it. So this is going to change, over time. Alternatives now, of course, are problem-based learning. You're going to see that faculty are actually trying to incorporate more than just an appellate case in their teaching. We see this, in the experiential kind of movement. I actually have for the last 10 years co-taught a clinic with Conrad Johnson here, who's actually on the board of CALI. I would say that we're partners in crime, but maybe more directly we're partners in the collateral consequences of criminal charges. And if you want to Google Conrad Johnson and collateral consequences, you'll know what I'm talking about. But that's sort of a different project.
you know, it is true that I think problem-based learning will certainly gain traction, and I think that's an important thing, right? And a part of that now is the simulation. There was a session yesterday by Deb Quintel talking about CALItown, right? And what they're trying to accomplish in the simple software. It's really an amazing thing, right? I think it's going to take quite a while for this to actually become a deep and useful and rich set of what they call resources, right? Things that people can go to and look at and then react to them in an experiential way. I know Marjorie McDermott and a few other people are working to get their simulations into it. I think we're going to see more and more people working on these kinds of simulations, right? And one of the interesting things, I think, is that the way that Paul Maharg has set this up originally, whenever you had to do legal research, you would actually go outside of the simulation, right? Because we don't have these resources, right? These models that people can use within the actual simulation universe that they've created. And so really what I want to talk about is this, WestlawNext, right? And there's also, you know, the new Lexis for Microsoft Office. These search engines are really quite remarkable. I've been talking in our clinic for quite a while that search engines are going to go in two paths, right? One path, whoops, where'd that go, John? There we go. Oh, no, what happened? It's not plugged in. Oh, here. All right, well.
This isn't part of your 5 minutes.
Right, really. I'll talk anyway.
So what I was trying to say was that search engines go in two different directions, right? You've got the initiative to mark everything up, right? If you take a look at law.gov, right? You put metadata, you have XML, you try and mark things up so that the search engine can actually find what it is that you're looking for, find relevance, find, you know, the metadata that surrounds a particular document. The other initiative is to simply try to make the search engine smart, right? And I think that the folks at WestlawNext and at Lexis Microsoft Office have actually made an incredibly smart search engine. When we talk about Google, that's a particularly smart search engine, right? PageRank is a wonderful thing. But these tools now, the search engines that they've incorporated into Lexis and Westlaw, I think are going to be tools that lawyers are going to be working with all day long, right? When you come into the office and someone sits in front of you and says, well, here's a particular problem, and you say, well, gee, you know, I think you need a lawyer, right? I don't know, you know, you have to figure out what the answer is to their question. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to turn to, you know, your search engines, and you're going to search through not just what, you know, typically is taught in legal research as legal authority. We're not going to necessarily search through a case or a statute or a regulation. If you work in an area of law over a period of time, that statute or case, I mean, you know that stuff, right? What you're really searching for are models and other, you know, useful types of documents that you would otherwise find in your file or other, you know, data sets that are out there in the world that are useful to you. And one of the things I think is important about the way, you know, we conceive of legal research now in a lot of different ways that we approach teaching finding legal authority is that it completely dismisses this, you know, this function of finding materials that you know are useful in this knowledge management effect, right? That, you know, people have been, you know, within law firms creating documents for years and years. They've been putting them into document systems. But we don't teach any of it, right? We don't do I have to see, of course, when we raise their hand and say, well, yeah, we teach students how to use the document data. Right? Does anyone do that?
We're back.
Okay, well, there you go. So WestlawNext. Here.
Sure. I think I've stolen about 10 minutes, right? That's pretty good. But look at, you know, if you look at this menu, right? How many people teach expert witness testimony or New York or jury verdicts and settlements? Anything from a docket from a court, right? Does anyone really do that? And so this is the way I look at it, right? That there's the iceberg, right? So you've got cases, statutes, and regulations, and some secondary sources that are, you know, above the wave, and then the rest of this stuff is all down below here. And this is the stuff that I think we have to figure out a way to teach. Now, you can teach it, you know, by creating exemplary models of these things. I think you could probably partner with law firms to get sets of documents from cases, all the nuts and bolts that go into the particular case, and work with faculty to create, massaged sets of these things. You could use them in simple, sure, but you could also use them in lots of other different ways. One of the other parts of, the new WestlawNext is that you can do things like, annotate, highlight, and copy the reference, right? These are new things. And I don't know, does anyone actually teach students how to do this? Right? I don't know of anyone, but something we got to consider. And so, finally, I think, the challenge is to develop resources, right? Things that students can use using these new search engines in such a way that they actually practice knowledge management in a way that, an attorney would actually do this, right? Not just say, okay, if you go out and you find a case or a statute that you've actually done the research. It's a fairly simple proposition. So, and I'm thinking, a good theme for maybe the next CALI or some other conference is teach the iceberg, right? Teach the iceberg. There you go.
All right, Jim Smith.
Good morning, I'm Jim Smith, professor at the University of Georgia. I'm on the 15-second auto advance, as you probably recognize. Some of you, this is Andy Warhol, who once famously said, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. We get 5 minutes in Ignite, which is exciting. John maybe rather foolishly said we could do anything that we want to in our 5 minutes, and I have a series of random thoughts. In effect, 2 different mini presentations that I didn't finish and splice together. The first part of the thing that I'm going to talk about, given the decal you see here, happens to be the idea of rebooting legal education. Is this on auto advanced?
It's obviously not. You're going to have to tap it.
Okay, and the tap is... okay. At any rate, I'll start with the idea of rebooting CALI. I thought rebooting legal education as a whole sounded a little bit grandiose to me, and maybe we should start a little closer to home. Where do we start with CALI? Well, one thing we could do would be to look at our mission statement. What does it say? It says that we advance global legal education through computer tech, employing research, collaboration, and leadership to assist a diverse audience in the effective use of this technology in legal education, and promotes access to justice. A long sentence, a virtue, unlike many mission statements, of being one sentence rather than a series of bullet points and other things. In thinking about what we do in the core of CALI, it strikes me that we can divide things in terms of legal education into 2 sides, what I will call delivery apps and assessment apps. What is a delivery app? I simply mean we deliver content to students. We instruct. It can be old-fashioned traditional lecture style talking. It can be Socratic style with our students. And it can be content provided out of the classroom by any number of different mechanisms. When I think about technology and what it means to me as a teacher, I try to ask myself, as I'm sure many of you do, where are the successes, where are the failures, what works well, what doesn't work. We've had many successes, I think, over the time since I've been teaching, since way back last century in the 1980s. Many aids that are now taken for granted. To show how old I am, I recall first beginning teaching in Ohio State, where we didn't even have word processing in individual faculty offices, and I had those old yellow notes that I took in to teach with. Thank God that ended long, long ago. Delivery apps from the New York Times, maybe some of you saw this piece in April. We have met the enemy, and he is PowerPoint dealing with, essentially, the front page showed an Afghanistan map prepared by the U.S. military, which a PowerPoint slide which had extreme amount of information on it, very highly dense, and the article as a whole talked about maybe some of the evils or misuses of PowerPoint. But especially the clutter that can come into play. I've seen many PowerPoints, and I'm an abuser myself, that have so much information and they distract rather than help, both at conferences and in the classroom. I think the one that I like the least is essentially what I would call the teleprompter use of PowerPoint. That is extremely dense slides that for many people are produced by taking an article or a piece and cutting and pasting like 80–90% of it and then reading it to the audience. I think it's a bad teleprompter in that if there's a good teleprompter, at least it's invisible to the audience. The speaker sees it with his or her eyes. But for the teleprompter, PowerPoint as I'll call it, the problem is that you sometimes listen to someone reading. What are assessment apps? What are they? Technology that helps assess student learning, including but not limited to evaluation for the purpose of assigning grades to students. My thesis here is that assessment apps, which include things like computer grading of multiple choice questions, CALI lessons because they have a score function, and final exam typing software happen to be underdeveloped compared to delivery apps. I think there's much more that can be done, and in part the reason it hasn't been done is that the law school education model for assessment, which I think all educational theorists tend to think is quite weak, tends to focus on end of the semester examination and not anything else. It looks like my time is about up and I'm not through all the slides. Nevertheless, this is kind of the first part of the two things I cut and pasted, and I'll quit here. Thank you.
Last but not least, Gary Moore. Well, yours is plugged in.
Hi, I'm Gary Moore. I'm the Assistant Dean for Information Systems for Hofstra Law School. And the reason I'm probably last is because I'm the last person who probably gave John their topic. When John emailed me last week and said, I want you to be part of this, I was like, I had a mental block, or I think I was actually in denial. And then it came to me in an epiphany in Tom Bruce's wonderful and honestly frank speech yesterday, when he also, and then at the end about communication and projects, I had to raise my hand. And plus, I refused to be called a coward. So there's going to be some audience participation, and there's going to be some pop culture references. So first thing is, how many of you guys feel like that? Your IT directors, library directors, whatever. Come on, don't be afraid. As Randy Newman would say, you've got a friend in me. Can I get a monkey cued, please? Sound of a monkey. Come on. Thank you. This is my subject for today. I'm going to give you a background on Hofstra Law School. It has grown a lot, and I have been there since September 1993. When I first started, we had about 800 law students. We've grown at least 25%. We now have 1,080 law students, 50 full-time faculty. My department has grown, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, because John made a comment yesterday, and I'm going to follow about that. Including myself, there's 7 full-time people, but we still have some student aides. We have a centralized IT that we need support from, and we support 3 buildings, which is the main law school building, the Joan Axon Hall, which houses our clinic, and now our Office of Enrollment Management was built in '96. And our basement, we actually took over a basement of the building that we're trying to, if I have overnight, I took over an op team, I want to take over the rest of the building. That's our basement of Roosevelt. Okay, I was not the first person in our department. Our first person, she's actually still there, Mary Giacomaza, started a computer facilitator in 1989. I used to work with Mary because I was the systems manager for the Axon Library, the undergraduate library, and I did work at the law library. I was hired in September 1993. As you can see, for 8 years, we were a 2-person shop with a couple student aides. And John was like wondering, now that I have a 7-person staff instead of like 2 people, and and the fact of the matter is, we do a lot more work, and we're a lot more technological. And I have the original software installation disk for our exam software from spring 1997. I could fit the number of students in, we were taking exams back in that time, in a 30-person classroom with seats to spare. So, over time, we actually grew, and actually 2 of my new positions started in the last month. So that's because we had stats And we had a case, we could build a case that we needed 2 additional people over that time. So think about it. 8 years, 2 people, and then the rest of the time, added the rest of the staff, because exponentially the amount of work grew. Don't worry about reading the fine print. I'll tell you in a second. This is the list of all my summer projects. All my summer projects. And now we're going to talk about the projects we're doing for the fall of the next year. If anybody was in Tim DeVito's and Jamie Butler's great talk yesterday about digital signage, I was in the second row salivating, because that's my next project for the year. And don't worry, Tom, Tim, I'm going to be visiting you guys shortly. All right. For the summer, I've got 53 total projects, 28 of them currently in progress, 10 that I need help with centralized IT, and I'll talk about that more in a second. So I think I have a really hardworking, talented staff. They do a really terrific job. They make the department look good. They make me look good. All right? As a consequence, though, they work a lot of long hours. When you have 53 projects, you can't do it 9 to 5, and everybody else here knows that. And we do our best to try and maintain our projects. We have our own SharePoint site, and we do a lot of communications, weekly meetings, status reports, communications, follow-ups with all the people we're doing the projects for. I think we do a good job of that. But when you have staff working really long hours, we're doing also day-to-day work. We're putting out fires. We're dealing with power outages that come in. We had one this week, actually, 10-second power outage, because LIPA decided to do an underground explosion by the Hofstra Deli. So, long hours, and I'll talk about that more now. Somebody cue a monkey, please. Please. When you have long hours, thank you. You've got streaming staff. And, I can't blame them. I mean, they're wired, and they don't know, they can't see light at the end of the tunnel. And if they think there's light at the end of the tunnel, it's possibly a train. So, we have centralized IT. A lot of our projects deal with, working with centralized IT. We're working to revamp our portal and all that. So, we have to deal with that. And so we have other things we have to deal with, competing priorities, potential mistakes, and all that. Because as a result of doing that. So we're meeting with trying to resolve this. As you can see, I only have 9 seconds left. We're meeting with departments in advance. We have an a la carte menu for projects, options 1, 2, and 3. We have Star Trek 2 philosophy. Everybody know it? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few and the one. I'm very proud that I can do this. And I do outside services. That was my talk last year. I'm already going overtime. But still, the number of projects are extensive. 53 is a lot for just the summer. And of course, when we give departments a choice of a la carte, they always choose the middle one. So it's still a number of work. And you got budget, and you got a squeaky wheel. So, how do you guys all try and cope with so many projects with limited resources and limited budget? That's my question to you. And if you know you're Nancy Reagan, what? Can you? Is my question to you all. Some food for thought. Thank you.
One more time, please all stand up. Thank you all. Have a monkey. Thank you very much. We're all set. That was overwhelming. But I think next year we're going to convert the entire conference to about 3 hours of Ignite plenaries, and maybe we can get out of here faster and go check out the Independence Center or the Liberty Bell. Anyhow, thank you very much. See you all later, and take care.